Hello class, today we're going to talk about some of the culture artifacts that deal with Black people in America. This is course MPH 608, Health Communications and Practice, and I am Jessica Bossy. First, to start with the culture artifacts, I do believe culture artifacts have started way before our time, dealing with the invention of different types of food, beliefs, and history. Just to start with, I would like to say everything starts with breakfast. Waking up to pancakes, eggs, sausage, grits, and sometimes a lot of things that are very unhealthy for us in the community. But us being as a Black race, we do like to participate in some of the things that are very unhealthy, but they're good to our bodies. But when it comes to culture artifacts, we have to begin with some of the things that we hold as materialistic things and some of the things that we hold as present values. History itself is dedicated to some of the fantastics of people that have came before us and made things such as Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. I would say these people were employed in our life, and they gave us a cultural background of what we thought was breakfast, what we thought was healthy. And I would say some of those things did start back in slavery, meaning that the content of Aunt Jemima, she was on the pancake box in the pancake syrup. It did start way back in slavery when things were black-faced, and things started as something for Black people. It was the face of Black people, and it was passed down from generations. And I do believe it did come to deal with life or death consequences that we face, sometimes unhealthy decisions and sometimes decisions that face life-threatening decisions. The cultural artifact that I want to discuss today is going to be breast cancer. And when it comes to breast cancer, there are a lot of women around the world that deal with the lethal fact of breast cancer. It's affected more than 1 to 10 women worldwide. I want to say that's in all races, not just Black women, but Black women are the main trigger when it comes to it. It's most frequently in the United States versus skin cancer, and it can occur in all racial cultures and backgrounds, but it's globally suffering in Black women in ethnicity. I would say this is a target that does deal with some of our cultural artifacts that we deal with, some of the foods that we put into our body, some of the pork that we put into our body, not knowing that it is a life or death health risk that we're dealing with it. It is a primary cause of disparity for African Americans, and it's more likely in white and Black, but the diagnosis is up and down. Sometimes those things happen when you go for a mammogram, you have a lymphatic limb, or you just go in to see the doctor for regular care, and you just find out that there are different socioeconomic things that you're faced, even though it's part of your race. Just to begin my story when it comes to the breast cancer, way back in 2017, I was in a fight with my mother when it came to breast cancer. We didn't know what to expect at this time, and right here I do have a representation, a picture of a Black woman who has had breast cancer, and she has had both of her breasts taken off. In the case scenario, when it came to my mother, she only had one breast taken off, and she is a fully recovered breast cancer patient. With that being said, she does still go to her cancer doctor. She does take bone density treatment, and sometimes every 1 to 6 months or every 6 to 9 months, we do go in for a bone cancer treatment. This is something that they hook her up to her IV, and they give her a treatment, something that'll strengthen her bones, because some of the medicine that you take once you've been diagnosed with breast cancer does affect the ability to have strength in your legs, arms, hands. So sometimes when it comes to her doing different parts of work, it is very difficult for her, and I do think that comes from her cultural background, some of the things that she was raised on as a child. And by me being a part of the new school, it is my business, it is my property, it is my value to make her more aware of things that do come up in her life, to let you know that you do have to change your diet, some things you do have to put away, because if you don't, you will deteriorate. And with that being said, I think having her in my life and experiencing breast cancer open up my healthy side of my life, knowing that you don't always have to eat the fast food, knowing that you always don't have to have the grease, the fat, or the pork. There are healthy options out there. It may be cost efficient, but with this being a cultural thing with Black people, and I think breast cancer is the main thing with it, we do have to figure out other ways to be healthy. We do have to figure out things that are better for us. So when it comes to cultural aspects, as Black people, it's a lot of things that we have to think about. Us as a Black race, we're not always up to date on healthcare. We're not always up to date on psychosocial type things. We're not always up to date on going to the doctors. We're not up to date on keeping ourselves healthy. And I think some of those things come from our descendants. They come from slavery. They come from civil rights movement. They come from the foundation that we came up off on. But it doesn't come from tendency, it doesn't come from the accomplishments of people in our community, we'll just always continue to be falling behind. One thing I want to say is Black people as a race, we're always sometimes behind when it comes to certain things. Why? Because it's the lack of knowledge, it's the lack of reading, it's the lack of culture, it is just the lack of understanding. When you think about the Black race and you think about our history, how much history that we will have in a historically museum, there is lots of different pieces, lots of different artifacts. I would say that comes from different type of bowls, different type of hand sculptures, things that we used in the past, such as cast iron skillets, and I really think they're a great idea to use in the present, but just some things that we used way back in our colonism, in our slavery time, in civil rights movement. It has an effect with us right now. The pictures that I have displayed are just some things that we're talking about in the presentation. When I say Black people, you know, they lack health care. COVID, a lot of people didn't take COVID seriously, so there were some people that went everywhere they went without a face mask. There were some people that didn't do screening. There were some people that were widely affected, and then they just ended up passing away because Black people, we lack the knowledge, and that's our culture artifact as Black people. When it comes to museums, there are a lot of different culture artifacts for Black people in museum. About 4 or 5 years ago, I had a chance to go to the Historical Museum of Mobile, Alabama, and there was a lot of historical artifacts with different spoons that we used in our time, silverware, pots, pans, quilts, skirts, bowls. There was just so much to learn there, but at that time when I was exploring that museum, I was the only person there. So just to see that us as a Black race, we're held behind because of the lack of knowledge, the lack of tendency, and some of the accomplishments that we don't really acknowledge, it does leave us behind. And I feel like if we get ahead on some of that, it'll definitely, you know, help us going forward. Another thing I want to talk about is the cultural artifacts among Black people in ethnicity, in race, and gender. When it comes to Black people in gender, we always fall under either white or black, male or female, but sometimes people, you know, they don't think about the associated values that we have. They don't think about what we've come from. They don't think about the behavioral problems. They don't think about things that, you know, are higher risk from us. People that educate themselves on things that we need to know as a Black race, it becomes better for us when it comes to problems, when it comes to behavior, when it comes to support. Things are, you know, better for us. But if we lack those rates of higher problems and delinquent behavior, we'll always fall behind. I feel like as a Black race, we do fall behind when it comes to delinquent behavior because we're always high risk for delinquent behavior, gang activity, things such as that. We're always in the news sometimes. We're always on billboards for things that, you know, we may not have known until you turn on the news. A lot of things can be prevented when it comes to children and collective things such as higher learning, such as knowing your race and knowing the power that you hold within it. Some culture artifacts as in sexual orientation. I would say the LGBT community, we do hold a very high standard for that. Some of those may feel empowered about it. Some of those may feel that it's a shame, but it's some new information about sexual practices that we all need to practice. Close relationships when it comes to our sexual health, when it comes to sexual content, when it comes to encouraging and unprotected sex and relationships with men and women and multiple partners. That does lead to men and women becoming queers, lead to them as their side of whatever sexual relation or sexual gender that they prefer. Now, I know that it's a wide range conversation when it comes to people and their sexual orientation, because you can be discriminated against. You can be put in the category where people feel like it's just a disgrace. Some things they feel like Black people just shouldn't do. Some things that we're just broadly out there for because our race is just so popular. Our skin is just so popular. Our culture is just, it's empowering. And sometimes we have to watch out some of the things that we do. Participants such as Black women, they should practice safer sex. So also with men, we do have the ratio for men to women when it comes to queers, or when it comes to LGBT, or when it comes to transgenders, it's still at a very, very, very high risk. So us as Black people, when it comes to our cultural and our artifacts leading back to our history, there's been many, many, many things said about the Black race and the sexual orientation. There's many things such as STDs, HIV, all leading back to the Black race. So I think if we take some of our excuse me, we take some of our social content when it comes to our sexual orientation, or it comes to our preference, or how we're seen as people, there'll be more respect when it comes to that. Sometimes I feel like the history behind the sexual orientation and what has happened in the past with us being infected with different types of bacteria, and it being spread, and it being caused in the Black race, that's something that we need to pay attention to. Even though it happened in history, things are, always happening right now. And I feel like once we get that under hold, there'll be more things that we're able to explore. Now, when it comes to the social economic status, as I was stating in the beginning, I feel like the United States stimulates individuals of color and ethnicities for a greater rate of disease, disability, mortality, and greater population. And what that means is we do lack healthcare. We do lack outcome of insurance. We do lack things when it comes to monetary value, and it's just so many things that people don't know of. Growing up, I learned that knowledge is power. Higher learning is something that we always need to be familiar with, and I learned that once you educate yourself on different things that happen in your race or in your community, you'll be fully strong on the things that happen more in the present. I know a lot of things that have happened in the past that people don't pay attention to, such as several sicknesses and diseases, but they do, disqualify us for certain things. When you go to the hospital, or when you go to the doctor, when you take a look around and you do a ratio from 1 to 10, I would say there's about 3 to 5 Black people in emergency room, maybe about 6 to 7 Hispanics, so on and so on. But I feel like our race is deplenishing when it comes to our economic status, because there's not that many people out there stimulating work, stimulating growth, stimulating health, stimulating disability, the mortality, and the general population of things that happen in our culture. A lot of diseases are, attached to the Black race. A lot of things when it comes to unhealthy outcomes, unhealthy perspectives. A lot of things are attached to the Black race. This comes with income, education, occupation. There aren't a lot of people that send their kids to college. There are not a lot of people that's educating their kids on 401k. There are not a lot of people that are letting them know that knowledge is power, that you have to overcome the things that have happened with our past. They are attached to us, and there's nothing that we can really do about that but overcome. So I feel like once the economic status is updated when it comes to Black people, and people continue to teach their kids about the outcome of healthcare, the outcome of education, the outcome of going out there and getting the job, and not taking from the next person, we'll be better as a Black race. And with that being said, I want to say that kind of concludes my presentation, but to continue to tell my story about healthcare and the culture of breast cancer. I wanted to say breast cancer started in my family about maybe 10 to 20 years ago. It is something that was maybe passed down through my great-grandparents, and it is something that I want to continue to educate my family on. It's something that always happens as a Black race, some type of thing that is not educated. I always want to continue to grow on and educate my children on things that can happen being a part of the Black race, because we're always number one in the media for different types of things. And I feel like the culture artifacts is something that we should always know about. We've always been on some of the things that you see in your grocery stores, but as of now, that's been wiped away. And I want my kids to know, and I want different other kids to know, that we are a withstanding community. We are a withstanding race. We hold a lot of population in the United States and also outside of the United States. There are a lot of people that come here, and I would say they'll be African, there'll be Indonesia, they could be part of Ghana, and they are part of the Black race, but there's so many things that they lack because their culture teaches them differently. And being a part of the Black race and traveling outside, you just have to know what's important. And when it comes to that, I feel like there's a lot of things as a Black race that we have to keep up with our culture artifacts, and once that is done, more can happen for the Black race.